All right, so good morning and welcome to the Employability Skill Series, where we explore the top skills employers are looking for in candidates. Each week, we will cover a different topic with thoughts and insights from professionals in a variety of industries. I'm your host, Megan Morrow, Senior Associate of Experiential Learning and Employer Relations. And today I have Meredith Prokuski, Associate Director of Career Services, Pre-Health Professions, as my guest to discuss problem solving and critical thinking. Meredith Prokuski has been with Florida Southern since 2010 and working in higher education for almost 20 years. During her time at Florida Southern, she has served in a variety of departments, including PR, Advancement, Alumni, and Center for Free Enterprise graduate programs in the School of Business, and most recently in Career Services, where she currently works with pre-health students, which I cannot believe I agreed to, but I am going on a field trip with her tomorrow to look at cadavers. So pray for me, please. I am a little nervous. I even told my little boy about it. He said, "Why?" And I said, "I don't know." Anyway, so she holds a Bachelor of Arts in Politics from Randolph-Macon Women's College and a Master of Science in Industrial and Organizational Psychology from Florida Southern College. She's married with 4 boys and enjoys torturing everyone around her with Broadway musicals, which I miss because she is no longer in my building. But thank you so much, Meredith, for being here with us today.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me back.
Yes, very excited about talking about this, especially the what you recently ran into. So we're going to talk about that. Why I thought you would be a prime guest to talk about problem solving and critical thinking. But just tell us a little bit more about yourself. I know you have 4 boys. You've been here a long time. Kind of done a little bit of everything. So just tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Yeah, I think we summed it up pretty well, but yeah, I think I have done a little bit of everything here on campus. I think I joke that in 20 years of higher ed, this is actually my first time getting to work with undergrad students, so like traditional college students. So that's been really fun. But yeah, I've done a little bit of everything. I've worked with our alumni. I've done a lot of event planning, which is kind of where my mind went a lot of times as I was thinking about, what we might talk about today and things like that. So I'm a little nervous on when you say with everything you've done lately, what my thoughts might be. I was like, oh God, what have I done lately? Because I may or may not remember what I did yesterday.
This is
Um,
very true. I'll help you remember. Well, and the reason why I said that, what recently comes to mind is you were doing something, I think it was after hours. I think it was like with the Zoom, you couldn't quite get it to work, or you had the wrong link or something like that, and you had to really just, roll with it and think real quickly on your feet. Do you recall what I'm talking about?
yes,
Okay.
I did a presentation with the Wellness Center. And I got to meet with a bunch of their student workers and some folks over there, a great group of students, and kind of going over some resume 101 and some interviewing tips and tricks, do's and don'ts. And not a lot of time. We didn't have the Zoom, we didn't have the all of those fancy electronic things we usually use. So I was just using good old fashioned, handouts. And I was trying to be prepared, get everything ready ahead of time, going over and, like maybe an hour or so before the presentation, just kind of, ticking through what I'm going to say. And I look and I see at least one error
Yeah.
on the resume. It's like, oh, I cannot print 100 new copies. What am I going to do? And I said, okay, pivot. Let's make this into an activity for the students. Let's go over, some basic, here are some things you should do to make a really good, strong resume. By the way, there is an error on this resume. Bonus points if you can find it. And I'm grabbing promo stuff and like you get a gold or a red squishy star if you can find I can't give you a gold star, but I can give you a red squishy star. And bonus points if you find the error. So it was a neat way to kind of engage the students and maybe have them pay a little bit more attention than they might have to a typical handout and say, oh, let's get something out of this.
No, that's a great example because it could have, I mean, if you weren't, problem solving, it could have been, almost disastrous, like where you just panic and I can't do this and maybe have to even cancel the workshop or, you try to blunder through it. Hopefully they don't see it, and yeah, we start to feel like, oh no, what do I do? Hang on a second. We're going to mute everybody. Yeah, so it's really, that's just such a great example. And I remember when you were telling us that, that's when I was like, oh my gosh, I have this topic that we're going to be talking about, which I thought would be great because they didn't even know that that was an accident, that that was a mistake. You just kind of rolled with it and made it like it was part of the lesson.
Of course it was.
No, that's wonderful. And as educators, or if you're looking to get into any type of public speaking, whether it's going to be in an HR department or you're presenting to a board of trustees or, presenting from a group, anything like that, you have to be able to think on your feet because things can and do happen. The internet goes out, the PowerPoint won't load, the projector won't turn on. You just have to, okay, what am I going to do instead of just standing up here like a deer in the headlights? What can I do to salvage this and still get the point across?
Absolutely. I'm flashing back to an MBA case competition where we had, teams from all over the country meeting with professionals and executives from, I think it was Saddle Creek that year. And hey, I get to work because I'm obviously going to have more stable internet connection at work, and I'm not going to have dogs barking. And it's clearly going to be more professional at work. And I get here, internet's down. And, I've got, again, teams meeting with this and doing Q&A sessions, and we ended up running the entire Q&A session and everything off my phone that day.
Wow.
So lots of fun.
That's great. That's great. I'm actually also flashing back to my first year teaching public high school. That was interesting in and of itself. It's the first day of school, so it's August, it's Florida. It's an older building too. And this is a true story, but a squirrel got electrocuted by like the transponder thing or
Oh
whatever.
my
It
gosh.
knocked out the power to the entire school. So we had no lights, we had no internet, we had no air conditioning. And again, it's August, so this is basically, the surface of the sun at that time of year. And I'm just, of course, I'm just melting, and I'm in front of this group of high school students. It's my first day, and I'm like, oh, this is lovely. I'm literally melting. And I thought, what am I supposed to do? Because I, have this PowerPoint. I'm going to go through. I was teaching AP psychology. So, we had to like run, like day one, you have to get going. And if you've ever taken an AP course, guys, you know that there's not any time. There's no wiggle room. You gotta hit all the things. So, I had to pivot. I had to, think quickly on my feet and do activities that I could only remember that were in my PowerPoint because, I didn't have access to my computer to nothing. But we had a great time. We ended up like doing like this circle activity. And luckily the classes were only 45 minutes. So it wasn't like I had to draw this out for hours and hours, but it was actually pretty cool. And by like the third or fourth class, it was just like, okay, I had this clockwork. But the worst part about that story is that they literally did keep us the entire school day with no electricity. Like, I mean, the squirrel, they
No
made
AC is
me,
the worst part of that by far.
yeah, the AC part, so we had the windows open. It's hot. Everybody's miserable. And, teenagers love to rebel about pretty much anything. So, of course, they're like, we can't do any schoolwork. We're too hot, and it's like, no, but we kind of got moving. But with that, with the whole problem solving and like critical thinking, I love this topic because we're going to always run into problems. No matter what, somebody's going to call out, or you can't access your office, or you have a flat tire, you're going to be late to work. So anything can and will happen. But when you have the problem, the other piece is like when you come to management or your supervisor or something, you're going to come with hopefully at least a proposed solution.
Absolutely.
Not just like, I have this problem. It's like, okay, because your boss is going to be very busy, right? They're going to be very busy. Yeah. They got all these other things, and you're coming to them with a problem. Like on our team, there's what, seven of us on our team. So if any six of us go to our boss with this problem, she's already got, a multitude of other things she's working on. So if you come to your boss or your superior with a problem and that's it, likely, like Meredith, how would you handle that if I just came to you with a problem?
Oh my gosh, just, okay, tell me, you've got to know more. You've got to come with a solution. I mean, at the end of the day, if you're coming to your boss, to your supervisor, if you think about all the other things they're handling, all of the other people's problems they've got, you've got a better insight into what's going on, the history, the players, what the problem means, what the ramifications are, what the potential, you know, consequences may be of this problem. Your boss is looking at it at a higher level and not as, may or may not be as familiar with all the players and what this problem may lead to. So you've got to come with a solution.
Yes, so come with a proposed solution. It shows that you are prepared, that you're not just helpless, because that's not going to give a good impression, because things are going to happen and no one's going to blame you. I think
Right.
sometimes we are so afraid of making mistakes, which is one of my later topics in this semester, embracing mistakes, accepting consequences and embracing mistakes. We're going to make mistakes. But whether it's on you or it was a system malfunction, or, like, it doesn't matter. If you have a problem, what could you do? Like, always put yourself in the shoes of your superior. How would you want someone to come to you and say, hey, I've got this problem. Okay, well, how do we fix it? Now, they could easily be like, yeah, no, we're not doing that. We're doing this. And that's fine. You did your due diligence, and I think that that will gain you a lot of respect, especially as young professionals. You guys have that age, kind of discrimination, if you will, that they're going to be like, oh, you don't know what you're talking about. But it's like, yes, you do, because you're going to come not only with the problem, but with the proposed solution. And that will gain you a lot of respect, in your organization. And just to say, like, too, it shows that, hey, I can roll with it. And I'm not going to just sit around and be like, well, I can't do my class. I mean, because I'm thinking about that. Like, if I just cancel class, which I'm sure my students would be like, oh, that's okay. But if I just cancel class because the projector wasn't working, my boss is going to come
No,
back and be like, what's going on?
yeah, no, not gonna fly.
Not gonna fly. Not gonna fly at all. All right, so let's kind of pivot again. Like, so, we kind of talked about like problem solving, and it goes along with the critical thinking, because you want to be able to think outside the box. You want to be able to think like, okay, this is what I was going to do, but I have to pivot. I'm going to shamelessly promote Professor Neighbor's book real fast. He just wrote a new book. I don't know if you guys, it looks like it's blurring, but it's called Don't Quit, Pivot. I'm currently reading it. If you take any of the sports management classes, he'll probably be one of your professors. If you're in the School of Business, he's actually right next door to me. He's my neighbor. Um,
I love
but
him.
I know, right? Bada ching. So anyway, so it's all about like pivoting and like thinking about the next step. So problem solving, critical thinking, they really do just go hand in hand.
They do. I love that you paired these together. It's like this, it just makes sense.
Yeah. So let's think of some examples. And I'm kind of putting you on the spot a little bit, but like, when can you think of a time when maybe you were working with somebody who who they ran into a problem, and you saw them quick and pivot and move forward, and how it benefited the organization?
I'm sure. That I'm
Yeah.
sure there have been times where I have witnessed that. With event planning, you see it all the time. And the really great thing is 9 times out of 10, you don't know. And that's when it's good. And just, again, with my history in event planning, I would see it so much, as the people in charge, as kind of the administration, as if we've got folks in here who are looking at it from the business perspective, um, your audience, your target audience, your customers don't always know what it is you intended. They're not familiar with your budget limitations, your staffing limitations, your internet problems. They just know, here's what I'm here for and here's what I expect. And as long as you can deliver, bam.
Yeah.
With event planning, no one knew that I meant to have, white roses on the table instead of red. They come in, something's there, and it's fine, and it's wonderful. So I think it really just kind of comes down to one of the biggest things I always say is just, look at it, where we were just talking about it from, look at it, if we have a problem, we're not going to go to our boss with just a problem. We're going to go with a problem and a solution, looking at it from her point of view. I kind of go, look at it from the user point of view, look at it from the user experience side. What is the user getting out of this, and how can I make this seamless as possible for them?
I like that. I like that. It's a good example. And the one that just popped into my head, not only just your resume little faux pas thing, but also too, we recently had that student employment fair.
Mhm.
And I had employers signed up for, weeks in advance, going on maybe even a month or two in advance. I had employers signed up, ready to go. I was sending out, additional invitations to people I hadn't heard back from. I was sending out reminders. And the day before the fair, so at this point, we're all set up. I've even got a diagram of the tables. We know how many are coming. We've ordered enough food to cover the employers and the students that we were anticipating to come. And the day before, I get an email from one of these employers that I had not connected with, which the person in my role before me had, but I didn't have that contact. So he's like, hey, I usually come to all of your events. And I want to know, are there any coming up? And I'm like, so I immediately responded back, like, actually, you know what? Yeah, I got one tomorrow. Do you want to come? He said yes. And then I looked at our spaces, and it wasn't until the next morning, the day of, where actually my boss was like, we don't have enough tables to accommodate this particular employer. And it's like, okay, we're cool. Because if you went to the student employment fair, it was like in two different rooms. So we had the on-campus and the off-campus providers. So we just shifted this additional employer to our on-campus side, and nobody knew one way or the other. Nobody came up to me and said, why are we over here with on-campus employers? No student came up to me and said, I can't go talk to them because they're on the wrong side of the door.
Great.
So it was that real quick shift. And that was my boss's, that was her. She was like, we have extra tables over there. But she was like, this is your event. What do we do? And I'm like, we just move them over there. Like it's
Yeah.
not a big deal,
Yeah.
and it was that quick shift, that quick pivot of not stressing,
Yeah.
because it can be
That's
stressful.
And I think that's one of the biggest things is just, and I know a lot of our students will remember, Lynn Dennis was the previous president's kind of right-hand person, that executive assistant, I think was the term. But Lynn was the person who was handling all of these big campus level, these big presidential level events and making sure everything looked spot on, everything was perfect. And you could throw anything at Lynn, and she just kept smiling and everything's wonderful. And let's bring you right over here. And of course, we have a seat for you, darling. Come on in. And it was just, and I always, Lynn, how do you keep it together? She's like, just be the swan, be the swan, be the duck, whatever you need to be, let it just roll right off your bat. But underneath your little feet are just, and you're just swimming like
100%.
crazy.
Yeah. Don't let them
Yeah,
see how hard you struggle on underneath the
no,
surface.
have to just smile, nod, welcome, and keep going.
Well, there's another point I wanted to make about like my example with the career fair is always be coachable.
Yeah,
Always be open to other people's perspective. So
yes,
that was quote unquote my event, right? But it's, we all work on it together. So we don't necessarily do that in career services. It's not like it's your event, my event, whatever. But if you've got one person running point, you usually defer to that person. What do you want to do? So in your team at any point in time, this may be like, okay, this is how I was going to do it, but it's not working. But somebody can come with a suggestion or a different point of view or perspective. So always be open to that. Always be open to different perspectives and somebody else's previous experience, right?
absolutely. And I think one of the big things that I was thinking of is, again, as I was kind of thinking about what we might talk about today, knowing your resources is just, it's such an invaluable tool. Be aware of who's doing what. When it comes to on campus, I think about, all those newsletters we get every week and, academic life and student life and all of these things going on. And it's not necessarily that you need to commit every single event and every single person to memory. And, even whether it's in this organization or another, you're never going to be able to do that. But just being aware of, hey, we have this club. Hey, we have this group. And in general, even if I can, if I've got someone who needs to connect with someone in the School of Business, whether I'm going to connect them with you or Paula or someone, just let me get them in that direction and then find out what resources are available. I go back to the event planning. And if I've got a student who wants to put on an event, okay, you need to find your location, are you serving food? Do you need parking? What kind of budget? Who am I going to point them to in each of those areas? And just kind of being aware of what your resources are.
Yes.
You don't
I
have to
keep
have all the answers, but knowing who to ask
knowing who to
is
ask. Yeah. I keep a
that's such an
database
important
of
tool.
like points of contact. So I can always refer back to that 'cause you're not going to remember. But the fact that you said asking, like no one expects you to have all of the answers.
Yeah.
No, no.
I
And,
mean, well, some people might, but hey, I expect to win the lotto any day, but
I expect to have a 24-inch waist and eat pizza every day, but
hey,
what's going to happen? But no, like no one expects you to actually have all the answers. And again, I go back to that comment about you'll get a lot more respect when you know your own limitations. You don't ever want to just make up stuff and don't be afraid to be like, you know what? I honestly have no idea, but let me find out for you.
I
I've been
have
in
to say that a
education.
lot in the last few months.
Yeah, yeah. I've been in education for 25 years and I'm not an expert on everything. Even if I taught the subject for, a couple of years, I might be like, you know what, I'm not 100% sure because I'm just not, that's not my area of specialties, but let's find out for you, and so you'll get a lot of respect for people instead of just fudging it or putting it like hoping that they'll forget that they asked you and you're just kind of sweep it under the rug and maybe pretend like it didn't happen. But you just say like, I just don't know, but let's find out together. Because one, then you'll learn who to contact next. But two, it just
Absolutely.
shows, yeah, it shows maturity on your part that
Yeah,
you're
that's a great question. Let's see what we can find out about that.
yeah, absolutely. All right, let's switch gears just real quick. Have you experienced a time when someone was incapable of maybe problem solving or kind of thinking on their feet and how it kind of maybe either ruined the event or made it more stressful than it needed to be or something like that? Could you have an example you could share about that?
I can kind of think, I can think back again. Apologies, I just keep going to event planning days.
That's fine.
But um, yeah, I mean, you get someone maybe who's kind of new in a position, taking on again, like we talked about, maybe a little more than they can handle, and getting into the middle of this big event, this big project, and just completely shutting down. And this is more than I can handle, and literally hiding in a bathroom.
Oh no.
And just that, okay, well, then let's go. Let's pick up. Okay, what do we have to do? We've got people coming in. Great. Where do you need to be? Let's figure it out. And you just, if you find yourself in that situation, hopefully, you may or it kind of depends on your personality. You may or may not be the person who can pick up and swoop right in and kind of take over. And that's okay. But again, knowing your resources. Who can you grab? Who can you call? Because at the end of the day, there is still this project, there is still this event, there is still an urgent need to address this situation.
Yeah.
And it's not going away.
No, it's
We
not going to go away. It's going to get worse.
so, so
Um, yeah,
being able to kind of swoop in, and even if what you're doing isn't perfect, it is far better than hiding in a bathroom.
don't hide in the bathroom.
Please don't hide in the bathroom.
No crying on company time.
Exactly.
Yeah, I'm thinking about an event that am helping with right now, and very similar. So I reached out to my point of contact that I have worked with in the past.
Mhm.
This person replied back and CC'd the new person in the role and said, thank you so much for contacting us. This is so and so. He's in the new role. I'm no longer in that role, but I'll let you guys take it from there. So I was like, okay, great. Hey, so and so, this is the event we're trying to put on. And in the past, we've done this A, B, and C. And this person knew in his role, trying to stick to the, I guess, the rules, if you will, but was immediately like, no, we can't do that. No, we can't do that. No, we can't do that. This is what we can do, which was not at all what we had been doing in the past. And I'm not a stickler for being stuck in the past, but this was an event that we put on numerous years in a row, and we have been afforded, these the parameters that I was presenting. And so, and I reached back out and I was like, okay, but I appreciate that and I understand that, but with our partnership and this that and he was just adamant that it was no, no, no. Now, this person being a new person in the role, should have reached out to the person who had connected us, the a person in the previous role, like, hey, this is Megan over at Florida Southern, and she's claiming this and this and this. I know you worked with her in the past. What can I do? That didn't happen. I don't know if this person asked any questions or did anything, but I ended up on my end having to do, I want to say, upwards to 5 to 7 extra hours worth of emailing and collaborating with other faculty, and even getting the dean involved, and then some of the other faculty were trying to email their contact, and it was like it became like this mess that it didn't need to be. And I stayed calm, and I was like, I know that we're going to get through this. I know that we're going to get kind of what we need, because we have a relationship with this organization where we're going to host this event. And finally the new guy ends up, kind of coming back to me like, oh, okay, I just spoke with so and so and I was able to get you these concessions. And I'm like, hey, whoever wants to take the credit, I don't care. As long as we got it and we're moving forward.
As long as it
But
gets done.
yeah, as long as it gets done. But like, just being inflexible, being, unable to problem solve, just saying, nope, this is what we do, not knowing, because sometimes things are what's said and what's done, and yeah, so that was like just my most recent experience of somebody who was incapable of problem solving. And we're still going to have the event. It's still going to be awesome as always. There was just a little added bit of stress that didn't necessarily need to be there, but we all, kind of came together, worked together. I had people on outside of my career services team that were also, jumping in and helping, because they're trying to problem solve and they're trying to think, okay, how can we all work together and get this? So it started off kind of hairy, but it ended, everybody happy, basically.
And I think that's such a big component, is just that kind of planning, that thinking ahead. What problems might come up? Looking ahead and, what might happen here? What could go wrong? And kind of thinking about it. No, sometimes knowing the players, knowing the players, and when you get those new players, oh my gosh, what might that bring to a situation? I can tell you, back in the day, there were certain events I would plan that I just knew. And I think I still have I've talked about this with you before. I still have kind of this PTSD, because I did so many events with this particular group that I'd have everything planned. And a week before they come back and like, no, 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 absolutely not. Do this instead. And oh my gosh, what? It got to that point where she's like, I can't plan anything in advance because someone's just going to come swoop in and blow it all up.
That's the joy of event planning for sure.
But and you get that with projects, you get that with anything where, last minute, oops, actually I had the deadline wrong. We need it done tomorrow instead of next week.
Yes,
All
that
those
happens a
things.
lot.
Yeah.
Oh, this fell through the cracks, guys. And we've
Yep.
had our boss come to us. Hey guys, and she's, I'm so sorry, but because can somebody do this presentation? It could be on
Right.
a Saturday or it could be like a Friday evening when you're like, I was not planning to be here. But it's like, okay, we just roll with it. All right, we are coming up on our time though, Meredith. Do you have any like imparting words of wisdom or little nuggets of advice you can give our fabulous students about this awesome topic about problem solving and critical thinking?
Yeah, honestly, I think just there's a big difference between problem fixing and problem solving. And I think, anyone can kind of quick fix a problem, but it's these critical thinking skills that are going to really allow you to solve a problem and understand, what's causing it, be able to identify the problem, what really is the problem and how do we go about solving it? And like you've said, being open to solutions, being open to ideas from a variety of people it's invaluable. We all get stuck in our own kind of ways of thinking. I just did it today and not being able to get out of that course, that event planning mode. I'm the problem today. But getting stuck in that one way of thinking when you can when you can open up and listen to other people, put yourself in someone else's shoes.
Yeah.
Whether it's the boss that you are taking the problem to or the users, the customers you may have who are experiencing the problem. Just put yourself in their shoes and kind of think, okay, how can we address this? And I think that's really going to be, if you've got those tools of knowing what resources are available to you, it's really going to help open things up for you.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you learn from the mistakes, then hopefully you won't have those same problems in the future.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, thank you everybody for joining us. Thank you, Meredith, so much for your time and your valuable insights onto this topic and sharing your previous experiences. Students, if you have not scanned the QR code or clicked the link in the chat pod to capture your attendance, we ask that you please do that so that you can get credit for being here. I will record this. If anybody wants the recording, just reach out to me and I'll be happy to send it. Other than that, everybody, thank you so much for coming. We'll see you next week at another employability skill series. But until then, have a great day. Have a great week. Stay warm and dry. It's crazy out there. It's like bananas. So don't go outside if you can stop, if you can avoid it. All right, everybody. Bye.